So, when I was 21, a file weaver schooled me. He crushed me. He devastated me, and it was fantastic. So, to set the scene, so a file weaver is a poet and a teacher, and in my memory, he's about 7 feet tall because he looms large. I was a freshman in college, and I was going to be a poli-sci major. I was going to go to law school, and I was all set to do these things. And I went to a poetry meeting, and it was a file weaver. And I remember I was sitting there, and I was just feeling so juiced. His poems, they were so good. And I walked out of there, and I sat back to the dorm, and I just ripped my shirt off and ran through the moonlight howling. Mentally. Physically, I probably had a little bounce in my step, but mentally, I ripped my shirt off and I'm howling at the moon. And I'm totally stoked. And I remember thinking, man, this feeling, like I'm alive, and this is good. And I don't think I'm ever going to feel this way going to law school or being a lawyer. I want more of this. So I no longer a poli-sci major, and so I take some poetry workshops and whatnot, and was really lucky to get did the summer program. It's kind of like poetry camp. So all we did was write poetry and go to workshops and go to poetry readings, and it was pretty fantastic. And a file weaver was one of the guys who came in to do workshops and work with us and give readings and everything else. And so when I found out if I was going to be there, I was really excited. And so the first chance I get to workshop in poetry camp, of course we took ourselves way too seriously to call poetry camp at the time, right? But so the first chance I get to workshop something was in a workshop that a file was running. And so I'm excited, right? So here is the guy who changed my life, who inspired me, and now I'm going to get a chance to get feedback from him about my poetry. And I thought about kind of sandbagging it and bringing a poem that I thought would impress him that I already workshop and working on for months, but like, no. So I bring in this poem. And I don't know if you've ever been in a poetry workshop, but the ones that I've been in generally work like this, right? You're focusing on a poem for a while, and it doesn't matter what the poem is, how crappy it is, you take it seriously. So it might end up, people might end up saying things like this, like, at the end of the third line, that semicolon, I really like what you did there. You should build on that. Right? Which is like, it was like a code for, this is really bad, but we're going to be too polite to say that because maybe you worked really hard on it, and so we're going to honor that. Right? So no matter what happens, the deal is you treat the poem like it's a thing that matters. So I'm there with the mob, and all these other people in poetry camp I really want to impress because they're from like Chicago, New York, and they're really cool. And I read my poem, and I look up across the way. There's a small room, and a fa is looking at my poem. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. A fa, he used to be Michael Weaver, and I forget who it was, but somebody kind of like renamed him a fa, which is Igbo for oracle. I think it's Igbo, but it definitely means oracle. Right? So not only am I in front of this guy who's like poetry I really admire, and who's like looms large in my life, is inspiring, but he's also the oracle. So I'm going to the oracle to find out what my future holds. And he looks at my poem, and he puts it down, face down next to him. We will not treat this poem seriously, he's saying. And he sits back, and he crosses his arms. And he takes a minute. I'm looking around the room because this is not the way it goes. And everybody in the room is looking at the ceiling, or looking down at the poem. Nobody wants to look at me because everyone realizes that if Bob Weaver just said, this poem's so bad, we're not going to talk about it. Crushed. And then he looks up at me. Right at this time, right, I'm jonesing to put on my backpack like a button that says like this is what a feminist looks like, and I'm desperate not to be some sort of like thick-necked, idiotic male who's like masculinity comes from like power and control and garbage like that, right? So I'm really sensitive, right? And I've written a poem which reflects this sensitivity. It's not going so well, and so if I looks up at me and says, "It's okay to be tender, but you have to be noble." Oh! Right! Okay! I know what that be about girls, right? Like, if I figure this out, then the chicks are gonna dig me, right? And he schooled me, right? But he schooled me in a way which left me really confused. What he said was, you're doing it wrong, but he didn't really say this is how you do it. He just said, don't do it like that. And so, you know, every time I think about that advice, tender but noble, tender but noble. And every time I try, and I think about like telling a story about it, I feel like I get a little bit closer to understanding whatever it was that he meant. And, alright, it's a little cheesy. And I was, right before I came here, I went to my 5-year-old soccer practice, and then as I'm driving, you know, leaving to come in here, he's standing there, he's got a soccer ball, and his big smile, and he's waving at me, and he blows me a kiss. Like, I don't know what a fawn meant, and I don't know if I'm ever going to know what he meant, but maybe it wasn't like the thing to get. Maybe it was like a compass, like a direction to head in. So the oracle wasn't saying this is what's going to happen. The oracle was saying, like, go that way. And man, if that's what it was, tender but noble, I don't know if I'm ever going to get there, but I'm happy to keep moving that way.